Welcome back to She's Got Game. On this week's episode, I'm sitting down with the incredibly talented and quietly fierce Morgan Lake. Morgan is not only an Olympian, but she is also the British record holder for the high jump, being one of the only women in the world to have cleared that 2 meter barrier. We are getting into all of it in this episode, from early years competing and not only high jump, but heptathlon too, what that transition looked like, body confidence, the mental game of high jump, the highs, the lows, having to withdraw from an Olympic final, and of course, breaking that 2 meter barrier. Morgan is warm, open, and incredibly self aware, and I think you're going to love this one. So let's get into it. Morgan Lake, welcome to She's Got Game.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. We recently met in the Cayman Islands, which I think was 6 weeks ago now, wasn't it?
Was it? Oh, take me back there right now.
I know. And you said that you'd only had 2 weeks of off season.
Yeah, kind of crazy. We had quite a late season this year with Tokyo World Championships being much later than usual, but also we didn't have any competitions afterwards. So it meant that once World Champs was done, we were like free, free to holiday. So yeah, I spent an extra week out in Japan. And that was kind of, yeah, my first week of off season. So did no exercise, even though we did like 20,000 steps a day, just trying to see Tokyo, Kyoto, and just explore. So yeah, that also was kind of active. And to be honest, I'm one of those people who's really bad at sitting still.
Mm.
So yeah, for me, having off season is great mentally, but sometimes physically, I'm like, I actually kind of want to train. Like I want to move my body. I don't want to do anything structured. So as soon as I get given a program, I'm like, ugh, don't make don't make me do that. Yeah, I do like movement.
How does it feel to be back in the rhythm after quite a short off season?
Yeah, so I actually ended up having quite a long time. So I'm based in Gothenburg in Sweden, but I actually ended up spending quite a long time, almost 6 weeks, I think, between World Champs and coming back to training here. So it was a good amount of time to be away, I think away from like a setup and just like a good time to like refresh. So yeah, I spent a week in the Cayman Islands. I went to St. Lucia with my family. I had some time back in London and just seeing like friends and family. Still training, which I think was like the most important bit. It was like I didn't come back from my off season just like undertrained and yeah, not wanting to be there. It was quite a nice balance to be able to do my training, but also just when I wanted to do it. So yeah, it was a good off season in that sense where I felt like I didn't lose too much of my fitness, and also yeah, enjoy myself.
How do you keep the spark for high jump alive when you come back to doing that structured training, which you said you don't always love? How do
Mm.
you keep that spark there?
So I mean, it has like been up and down over the years, like that motivation and that spark. I think especially um, after you have like a really big season, so like after an Olympic year or after World Championship year, when the next year might not be maybe like as exciting. Sometimes that's a bit hard. Also, like disappointments. That's if you have a season. So for me in 2024 for Paris Olympics, I'd had a really good season in 2023. Um, and I actually struggled going into the Paris Olympics year because I felt like I did everything in 2023 to podium at the World Championships and I came fourth. And I think from the outside, it was like, whoa, like you came fourth at the World Championships. I jumped 199, which was the British record. So I'd had a really successful year, but after 2022, I really struggled with like what my goals were in the sport. So I was like, right, I'm going to give it one last shot and I want to get a medal. And I didn't. I just missed out. And I think that really took all my energy away. Like going into Paris that whole year, I wasn't really enjoying athletics. I was just like, oh, I just want to get a medal in Paris. Like, that was my only goal, but it wasn't a true goal. I think it's like what I wanted to do, but I don't think I was actually doing the things to get there and to achieve that goal. So yeah, the spark definitely goes up and down. I think you just have. I think for me, the most the way to keep my spark going is to be realistic with my goals and what I want to achieve.
Yeah. I recently was talking to Gemma Rikian because she came fourth at the Tokyo Olympics.
Mm,
And there's that really difficult, it's a difficult position to come because, like you said,
yeah.
you just missed out on a medal, but you're still the fourth best in the world. In hindsight, how have you managed to come to terms with that? Or is that something that you still struggle with?
Yeah, I mean, it is it is the hardest place to come. I've come fourth at a few major championships now. I came fourth at the Commonwealth Games, World Indoors, and the World Champs. And yeah, it is difficult. I mean, I came seventh at the World Championships this year, and I think I was happier with that performance than I was with my fourth in 2023, which is a whole other thing in itself. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just like you can't really um yeah, I think having a goal of a medal is it's not unrealistic, but you can't control it. So I feel like I've changed my the way I goal set so differently now. It's like I just want to jump as high as I can and do the best that I can. And if on the day that's a gold medal or from the day that's seventh, um, I'm fine with that. Like I just don't want to walk out the competition feeling like I've underperformed. I think that's the biggest thing for me now. It's just yeah, just being in my own lane and just trying to yeah, just be the best version of myself and be okay with that. Be okay with whatever the outcome is, as long as I've yeah, kind of stayed true to myself in that sense.
Is that why you think that coming seventh meant more to you or felt better than coming fourth a few years ago?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I had a really good season this year, and I think going into the World Championships, I didn't want to think, okay, the only way I'm gonna say this is a good year or bad year is if I come away from with a medal, because it was just so much bigger than that for me this year. After not making the final for Paris last year, my big aim actually was just to make the final, which sounds small, when I've had such a good season. I think I was ranked in the top five in the world to make the final. Yeah, it was a big achievement for me, and I think year on year your goals do change and your expectations do change. So yeah, coming seventh was so I jumped 193 in the final, which um, it was okay. I was 197, which was for a medal and for the next height after that. But I'd actually only jumped 197 once this year, which was in my 2 meter jump. So it wasn't like it was consistent jump for me week in, week out. And yeah, I walked out those championships like I performed well. I didn't underperform, but I didn't overperform. And I think sometimes in the championship setting with all the distractions and the pressure and everything, it's like you almost that's what you can bank on. You can bank on your almost like average performance, good performance, rather than I think sometimes in the championships I've been like, I want to get a PB, I want to jump the highest I've ever jumped in my life. And that's also another pressure you put on yourself.
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it? We recently had this race on the weekend, which is very different. You know, I'm running a 10K with
Hmm.
5,000 other women, but
Wow.
there's that thing where you've got this idea of what you want to achieve in your head and what you know you can achieve. But
Yeah.
on the day, you could nail everything, and it could be the course, the atmosphere, the environment.
Hmm.
There could be so many things that then change the outcome for
Yeah.
you. How
Yeah.
do you handle that when there are so many different variables outside of your control?
Yeah, I mean it's one thing I've really worked on this year, and I've pretty much did it all season apart from the World Championships, which I am happy with. Um, and I think it's the concept of being being able to like conquer things outside your control, or almost like have fun with it. Like when things aren't going wrong or aren't going right, sorry, or aren't in your favor, it's like, okay, this is a challenge, and how am I gonna be a problem solver. That's like my coach always says. It's like how the person who wins is the person who's the best problem solver. Because at the World Championships, the things that kind of got in my way were the rain, and there was a 5K race going on at the same time, which meant when we wanted to go and jump, we had to kind of wait for the runners to go past. And you're like keeping one eye on the race and one eye on what you want to do and like mentally preparing for your jump. Um, and it was like all a bit too much for me. But then I look back at the competition, I'm like every single girl in that final had the exact same conditions. It wasn't like, oh, only I got the rain and I got like it was yeah, it was the same thing for everyone. And some people were unfazed by it, and some people, like me, were. And I think I've had so many competitions this year where things haven't been in my favor. I had one competition where like one of my spikes bent during the competition, and and just like little things that happened. Actually, before I jumped my 2 meters, I had the worst night's sleep I've ever had. Like I literally think back, I'm like, I don't even think I slept. Like it was the worst preparation, and I could have gone into that competition being like, oh, I'm not going to jump high today because of my sleep or because of this, because of that. um and it's, yeah, it's kind of just going with where you're at. And yeah, the fun of it now for me has been, okay, so this challenge is here maybe for a reason. And yeah, I'm just trying to conquer that in like a fun way.
I find that so interesting because you do hear it often with sportswomen and men that they would have had really bad prep and they would have gone into something with really low expectations, and that's when
Mm,
they PB or they break a British record. Like it's crazy how that tends to happen. And then when you tick every single box and then you come away feeling like, to use your word, that sometimes you feel like you've underperformed,
mm,
that is frustrating and it's really
yeah.
difficult to come to terms with. When you are training and competing so consistently, how do you bring in those moments of relaxation and quote unquote normality?
So it is hard. It is like a full-time job. Like it's not like we can switch on, switch off because it's the weekend. It's like, right, okay, can switch off now. But so I moved to Sweden last year, and I feel like just being in a new environment, a new city, having like a new set of friends and training partners, and it's like, yeah, it's such like a breath of fresh air, in terms of being able to switch off. It's like, okay, I'm actually now having to like build a life outside of my sport, and yeah, like just come to terms with being in a new city with a new language. And yeah, I feel like that, and all the traveling and everything has been one of the things that's kind of helped me get away from that pressure a bit this year. It's like the uncertainty of where I'm going to be, like what training's going to be like, and yeah, just not knowing what's coming next has actually been quite a nice thing in terms of my training, in terms of, yeah, just being relaxed. I've had to, there's like been a lot of things like thrown at me which could have rattled me throughout the year, which yeah, I've kind of like taken in a way that's almost like what I was saying earlier about, yeah, like the uncertainty of the competition, the uncertainty of life as well can also help with performance. And yeah, just kind of not being stressed. I think the more you stress about something and the more you like push away from something, the actual like harder it gets. So yeah, being able to like flow with life and flow with competition has been good.
Yeah. What inspired the move to Sweden? Did you change coaches or what happened there?
Yeah, so I'd moved to Loughborough, for university when I was 19, and I'd been there from 19 to 27. So like quite a big like formative ages as well. Like I also joined Loughborough as a heptathlete and then became a high jumper. So quite a lot of changes and a lot of time in quite a small town. And I think I got to a point where I was like, I've done the same program over and over again, year on year, been in the same town, and I think I just lost that spark, spark for training, spark for competition, and yeah, I feel like I just really needed a change. So yeah, I just thought about my options in Europe, maybe in America, Australia, and just kind of weighed them all out and spoke to a few different coaches and spoke to Yannick, my coach, who's here in Sweden. And yeah, from the first conversation, I was like, yeah, I think this is the place I want to be. I had like a really good feeling about it. Um, and yeah, I didn't have any ties to Sweden or anything. And I think people in Sweden are always like, why have you come here? I didn't know it was great for high jumping. Um, but yeah, no, I've really enjoyed the move, and I think it has been a really good thing for my career. I feel like I've started fresh. Like this
Mhm.
feels, now it's my second year in Sweden. It does feel, I do feel like a different person, a different athlete. And yeah, hopefully it means I can like prolong my career and just, yeah, just have more fun with it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, we're going to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
When did you first realize that sport was something that you might actually be pretty good at?
So I actually can't really remember a time where sport hasn't been like a really big factor in my life. I started athletics when I was 5, which I think was the youngest you could start an athletics club. So yeah, I did netball, swimming, tennis, athletics, hockey, like every single sport you could think of, my parents got me into. So I think they always knew I was going to be in sport in some way. But yeah, I was doing loads of different sports even up until the age of 18, but I think I always knew that athletics was going to be the one that I was going to stick with, and the one that I loved the most. So yeah, it seems kind of wild to say, yeah, at the age of 5, I knew I was going to be an athlete, but I genuinely didn't have any other strong like pull to anything else. There's things that I enjoyed, but I was like my passion, what I felt was like almost like my purpose, was sport. So I did know that a big chunk of my life was going to be dedicated to sport in some capacity. So yeah,
Mm.
from quite a young age.
I mean, you were breaking age group records from the age of 12, right? All the way through your teens. Looking back at those early successes, did they feel motivating or did they come with pressure that you feel like maybe you weren't quite ready for at that young age?
So I think at the young age, I didn't feel too much pressure, and it was really motivating. And my dad was my coach actually until the age of 18. So I think it was almost like normalized. And I think when you're a kid and your parents tell you to do something, you just do it. You don't really question it. And my dad would be like, okay, so this is the British record. So this is what you need to do, X, Y, Z. And I was like, okay, cool. And I just did it. And I didn't really think twice about it. And I think having that family support was also a huge part of like where I am today, because I don't I think some of it was maybe pushed by my dad a bit more than my like initial, oh, I want to do this. But yeah, not in like a bad way, but I just don't think I would have pushed myself as hard if someone hadn't literally written it out and been like, this is what you need to do to get this. And I was like, okay, cool. And it was almost like an easy formula. So yeah, I'm really grateful for him and like the input of my family at that time. So yeah, when I was younger, I didn't feel as much pressure. I think it kind of grew when I got a bit older.
Mm. And then, I mean, pushing through early teenage years in one way, like you said, you kind of just do what you're told and you don't
Yeah.
think too much about it. But it's also such a difficult time to navigate, particularly as a teenage girl.
Mm.
Other than your parents and your family support, what do you think gave you that confidence to keep pushing through that period of your life?
Yeah, I mean it is a difficult period. Like I had a lot of friends in sport around the same age who ended up like not sticking to it, and now they're like, oh, I kind of wish I had. And like, there is such a big dropout rate, with like your body changing at that age and pressure from like your friends and your peers. So yeah, there were moments where I was like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. My parents were like, okay, that's absolutely fine. Like they never pushed me to do something I didn't want to do. And I think that also I almost like maybe wanted that argument with them to be like, no, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, cool, don't do it then. I was like, wait, no, I really actually want to do this. So there was also that like really big inner drive, to yeah, to kind of like go forward and do it. So yeah, it was a big inner drive, and I think that came from like a lot of role models in the sport and just seeing people like Jessica Ennis, like winning the Olympics in London 2012. I think that was such a big moment for me, and Kelly Holmes, in Athens 2004. That was also like that was probably like the pivotal moment for me. I remember watching her win the double gold, and I was like, wow, like that is incredible. And yeah, just having those female role models was really important. And I think we were really lucky to have that in athletics. I think other sports maybe didn't have those female role models in the same way. Obviously, it like when we're watching athletics, we're watching men and women. It's not like you have to just tune into women's track and field, which yeah was amazing for me to kind of see those people that I looked up to and wanted to emulate in the future.
It's so true. I was the same as you. Kelly Holmes was my absolute idol. Her and Paula Radcliffe.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
obsessed. I was actually talking about it the other day. And also to do that in her 30s was mega because at
incredible.
the time it was kind of like, athletics, well, not just athletics, but going to the Olympics was definitely something where you're kind of peaking slightly younger and it was less
Yeah.
hurdle to be as supportive later on in your athletics career.
Hmm.
What did you find was the hardest part to transition from this, teenage talent where you didn't feel too much pressure and then it becoming your full-time career?
Yeah, I did really struggle going from junior to senior. I think because when I was a junior, I was like really lucky in terms of I like almost I think my drive and like I got a habit of like winning. I think that was like my big drive. Like I loved winning. And then going from junior to senior, I did my first senior championships when I was I think 17 and I didn't make the final. And I think for me it was like, right, it's going to take quite a few years now to get to the top. I think I was jumping, my PB at that time was 194, but it wasn't like a consistent jump. But the girls who were on the podium were jumping 2 meters plus. And I was like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to get there. Um, and I think that was a really hard thing for me. And at the time, yeah, being a heptathlete and again, just feeling so far away from the top. Um, but with the pressure of some people thinking, oh, okay, it should be easy now to go from junior success to senior success. But for me, I was so far off it, it was quite hard to keep that motivation because it was like, yeah, the thing that kind of drove me wasn't realistic anymore. And yeah, I think I kind of lost myself at that time during that transitional phase because, yeah, it was pressure to perform, but then a bit of like almost imposter syndrome for me because I was like, this is yeah, this is not what I'm used to, and I just feel yeah so far off where I need to be. And um, I think I'm quite an impatient person, so I was like, oh, I don't want to spend years and years and years waiting to get to where I want to. But now looking back now, it's been 11 years since that first senior championships, and I feel like I have way more motivation now than I did then. But yeah, it's been a long, it's been a long transition.
Yeah, I mean, how do you manage those feelings of imposter syndrome? Because every athlete has a different answer to this, but I feel like every athlete also experiences it and every
Yeah.
human experiences it. What are your ways of managing imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I do find it really interesting. Like I've spoken or like heard interviews and things of people who maybe like won the Olympics the year before and then the next year they almost don't feel like they're good enough. And in my head I'm like, you're Olympic champion or you've done this and you've done that and you still feel like that. And yeah, it's just so interesting. Like sometimes you'll go into competition and be like, oh, these girls are so much better than me or they're so much more confident or they just know what they're doing. But I think also just everyone is pretty much in the same boat. So I think it's just like going back to just focusing on being the best version of yourself. And yeah, not really think about the competition, which is hard. It's something I've really, really worked on this year and definitely was able to do it up until the World Championships, where at that point I was like, right, now I need to do something else. I need to be a different person because this is the World Championships. This is like where it matters. And I think that's almost like why I was so I wouldn't say I was so happy after the World Championships, but I was happy and I was content because I was like, I actually don't need to do anything more. Like I tried to be a different person. I tried to do things a different way. And I was like, actually, if I just compete how I've been competing all year, and just focus on trying to jump as high as I can and being the best version of myself, I think that's yeah, where I can actually end up being where I want to be. So yeah, the imposter syndrome is yeah, it is kind of like fleeting as well in terms of what stage you're on. Um, so yeah, it's a difficult one.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it comes at
Yeah.
different points of life. You feel like, oh, I've kind of managed that and I'm feeling really good. And then it can creep back in at later stages. But it's interesting hearing you say that actually, even when you did try and change things, you were like, no, that's not necessarily the way to do it. Just,
Mm,
focusing on my own game is totally the way to do it.
yeah.
You spoke a bit before about feeling really tall at school and then feeling small when it comes to high jump. How has your relationship with your body evolved over the years?
Yeah, I've always, I mean, I still do now, like day to day life, like I'm a tall person. And then, yeah, in high jump, I was like, I'm actually one of the shortest, which is crazy. Yeah, it was crazy to me, but I feel Yeah, I think my body image and yeah, how I've seen that throughout the years has changed a lot. I think like a lot of girls, when you're at school, you just want to fit in. Like I had really bad posture as a kid because I was always like trying to make myself smaller. I was never like putting my shoulders back and like being tall and being proud of being tall. Like I always wanted to be shorter in a way. But now, yeah, now it's like great. Like I love it. And yeah, I feel like I'm definitely in a better position now at 28 than I was when I was, yeah, 18 at school. Yeah, I think it is a hard thing to be a young woman in sport. I think it's a lot better now in terms of like when I was at school, doing S&C was like unheard of. I was in the S&C gym and it was just all the rugby boys and me. There was like I don't think my friends even knew where the S&C gym was. Whereas now I go into like I'm at home, I go into a public gym and it's all women and young girls lifting, and it's amazing to just see that difference. So yeah, that was also something I was really self-conscious of. It was like the feeling of like being big or being muscly, and I tried to like hide that and be like, oh, I don't really gym, or like I don't do this, don't do that. Um, yeah, I just do cardio. But yeah, it's such a change now, and it's also like so refreshing to see. But I also, yeah, I know it does kind of come in cycles as well. Like there are some some bad things when I was a kid and growing up that are coming like back in now. So it's just pushing the good things I'm trying to do.
I mean, didn't one coach once say to you something on the lines of "You're too big to be a high jumper"?
Yeah, yeah, that was when I was 18 at the World Championships. And I hadn't made the final, but I was a heptathlete at that point doing high jump, and I remember speaking to like a really top coach, and I thought he was just giving me some like, well, I guess to him it was nice words of advice, but to me it was like heartbreaking. But he was just like, are you gonna stick with heptathlon or are you gonna go to high jump? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna stick with heptathlon. He was like, oh, good, because you're too big to be a high jumper. And at that point, I was like, I think I was just so shocked because he was such like a big coach and had like a really good athlete, and to me what he said was almost like gospel. It was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess I am. I guess that's true. So yeah, that really did impact me, and I think it changed how I saw myself as an athlete as well. So yeah, even just like these throwaway comments, which he probably doesn't even remember saying or didn't mean anything to him at the time, like can make such a big impact on a young athlete.
I mean, it's crazy now you're the British record holder, and it's like, not sure that was the correct comment. Was there a moment where you felt like your body did become your superpower, despite the comment, despite how you felt at school? When did you feel like you really stepped into your own?
Yeah, so after that year, it was so that was 2015, then going to the Olympic year in 2016, where I actually did end up doing the high jump, but still as a as a heptathlete. It was a few years of that where I was like, I want to do heptathlon, and then I think the universe was like, no, you're actually a lot better at high jump. So yeah, I ended up doing that. But when I did make the decision to be a high jumper, I think that comment that was made a few years before, like, really did stick with me. I was like, I don't look like a high jumper. So I like went through a few years of like quite disordered eating and like just patterns, like trying to make myself look like a high jumper, feel like a high jumper. Um, which yeah, it was really bad, like in terms of like losing my periods and just not knowing how to eat and how to fuel my body. So I just saw a nutritionist, who was the British Athletics nutritionist at the time, and she really helped to like get my periods back, get to like a healthy weight. And I think that was the point where my like for me personally and like my body and my body image, and at that point and then also that year jumped like a PB, another, I think it was like equal British record at the time, and I was like, oh wow, like there is a lot of strength in just like, yeah, like knowing what's best for your body and how every single body is different. And yeah, it took a few years. It's not an uncommon story in sport, especially in female sport. Like, yeah, you want to look a certain way and you don't always have the guidance how to kind of like be that person. So yeah, it was like a few years of under fueling. And yeah, I think in that time where I like learned how to like be the best version of myself, I was like, wow, my body is amazing. And yeah, and what it can do, yeah, thinking about the body is like what it can do rather than what it looks like was such a big thing for me. And yeah, kind of like hopefully now like transformed the rest of my life, and just thinking, yeah, fueling is such a big thing, not just for athletics but just for like being a woman, being like a healthy person in general.
Yeah, I think it's so important and an amazing message that people can hopefully hear. You know, an elite world class athlete saying, A, you've had struggles. So it kind of normalizes that,
Mm.
you know, you don't need to feel shame around that. There's just not necessarily enough education out there for girls in their teens and early 20s. And then also, actually, well, how amazing is it when you do focus on what your body can do rather than what it looks like? That's the
Yeah.
message I think is so important for people to take away with that. You've alluded a couple of times to the fact that you were a heptathlete pre-high jumper, or there was a
Mm.
little bit of crossover. And weren't you are a double world under 20 champion for heptathlete and high jump, right? Is that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
at what point did you decide, okay, right, I think I need to go all in on high jump now?
Yeah, it's such a weird one because I feel like it wasn't really a decision. It almost just kind of like happened. So yeah, in 2017 we had London World Championships, which was like huge after yeah, being too young for London 2012, but going to watch and just like being so inspired by it. Um, Knowing there was the World Championships in London, I think I was 20 maybe at the time, and I was at university and a heptathlete. But I really, really wanted to be at those world championships. And I hadn't qualified in heptathlon, but I had qualified in high jump. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I've qualified and I just want to be there. And yeah, I ended up making the final and I think I came sixth. So it was like a really big achievement, and I was definitely absolutely nowhere near that in the heptathlon. I don't think I would have even have qualified, let alone come in the top 10, or top 8. So yeah, it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I actually think this is more what I'm suited to rather than heptathlon. As much as I love it, I was just getting injured like all the time. I was like stop, start, stop, start, and training wasn't enjoyable because it was like mostly spent on like a watt bike or just doing circuits or just not actually doing my events. So yeah, I made the decision to move to high jump, which was definitely the best decision in terms of like physically and yeah, what was actually what I was best at. But I think I did mentally struggle with yeah, literally just dropping 6 events and just focusing on one, and the pressures that now came with that.
What were some of those pressures? Because I was going to ask, like, was it difficult going from multiple events to one?
Mm. Yeah, it was. I think like a lot of heptathletes would say, like when you're doing a heptathlon, you just focus on the task at hand. So the hurdles, the first event, focus on the hurdles. If it doesn't go well, okay, cool, just push it to the side and go to the next event, the high jump. And again, you've got 7 events. It's like if one event isn't like your absolute best, it's fine. You can just forget about it for that, like park it for the moment, and then go on to the next one. I think that was probably one of my biggest strengths as an athlete, is that I could do that. And then it got to a point where I was just doing one event, so I couldn't do that anymore. And my almost like coping mechanism had completely gone. I had to relearn. Yeah, I had to relearn almost like the event again, the sport again. And yeah, it was different. I think yeah, that probably that fallback and not having that fallback anymore was the biggest pressure. And I think also a lot of people thought, okay, now you're just doing one event, so you just train 7 days a week for this one event, and now you have to be so much better at it. Whereas in reality, I mean, now I only high jump once a week maximum. In the summer, I didn't think I really jumped in training. I only jumped in competition. So I actually ended up doing less training as a high jumper than I did as a heptathlete. So I maybe wasn't as strong or as fast, and it took a few years of understanding the programming as well. So yeah, all those things that I didn't really understand. I couldn't understand, like, I'm now putting all my effort on one thing. Like, why am I jumping the same or jumping lower? So yeah, it was like a big transition and a big change, which took me a few years to understand why things were happening the way they were.
For people who might not know, why do you not jump regularly throughout the week? Why is it mainly only in competition throughout the summer?
So I think the main reason is because it just takes a lot out of your body. So you want to be like training through the week and yeah, increasing your strength, increasing your speed, and increasing the things to make you jump higher. Sometimes if you're just jumping, you're only like working on one area, which you would think, yeah, okay, but that is what you're trying to be doing. So surely you just want to make that go higher and higher. But yeah, there's so many other things that underpin like a good high jump. Um, and yeah, some of the things like really heavy squats you can't emulate at takeoff. So yeah, it's probably the main reason why we don't jump as much. Yeah, I've competed a lot this summer, so I ended up doing most of my technical training sessions in competitions, which
Mm.
was fun. And I think it also took the pressure off a little bit as well because it was like, oh, in this competition, I'm just working on X, Y, Z, and yeah, just seeing where I'm at and seeing what I need to change for the next one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast recently with another athlete, and they were saying, "Oh, you know, you must do 800s all the time." And she was like, "No, we never do 800s in training." And it is just that thing of like automatically general population will think all you do every day is jump,
Yeah.
but actually that's not the reality of the situation. When you look back to your heptathlon years, is there anything you currently miss or you still miss from doing multiple events?
Weirdly, I really miss like 800 sessions and running. I think, which is like the weirdest thing to miss because I literally used to cry
Yeah, I was going to
before every single 800. Like it's literally the worst event. I don't know why I miss it, but I think it is almost that like runner's high and that the endorphins that come with like doing a really hard session. I don't get that in high jump and high jump training. Like I have really good sessions, like a really good session in the gym or like a really good high jump session or plyometric session, but that like all out like lactic and when you feel like you've literally pushed your body to the extreme and just yeah, then you're just like, oh, I really felt like I've achieved something. I think I used to use that in competition a lot. It's like I have done everything I can in training. Like now I can just like go out and enjoy the competition. I did really struggle with that because I used to feel like, oh, I don't think I've trained hard enough. But I had for high jump. Just in my head, I hadn't trained hard enough like I used to for an 800. But I think my coach here is just like, but you don't. That's just not how you get better at high jump by doing long 800-meter sessions. So he has let me do a few running sessions. Like in my off season, I did running and winter training. I think most any event we run a lot anyway. So I'm starting to get that. But yeah, I do miss the running.
I totally get that. There's something about knowing you've worked to your absolute limit that is such a good feeling. It's
Yeah,
so good.
exactly.
Do you feel like the support you needed during that transitional period and the support you need now when competing and growing in the sport has changed as your career has evolved?
Yeah, I think it definitely has. I think when I was younger, the support I needed was I maybe didn't get, but maybe I just it's because I didn't understand. Maybe I was getting that support and I just didn't understand it. I think yeah, the understanding of um like almost like my why. I think I really struggled with that for a bit. It was just like I think yeah, just asking more questions and just yeah, if I understood why I was doing something, I think it was better. Whereas now I do ask those questions, and then once I get the response, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that makes sense, and then I just crack on with it. I maybe didn't ask enough questions when I was younger, and then I would just yeah fight against it, being like, I don't think this training is right for me. Um, like I'm not training hard enough, and then in turn that would like I would internalize that, and then when I compete, I'd be like, oh, I almost like don't deserve to jump high because I haven't trained hard enough. And yeah, that was like a bit of a struggle. Whereas I think if someone had been there at the time to kind of, yeah, explain explain it, it would have been very different.
Mm. So high jump itself, for people who don't know, you get 3 attempts at the height. And if you clear it on the first attempt, that's cool. You wait until it goes to the next height. But if you miss it after 3 attempts, you're out of the competition, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's brutal. It's a lot of
Hmm.
pressure, and that is absolutely brutal. What do you think it requires mentally that maybe people don't quite understand?
Yeah, it can it can definitely be brutal. Um, Although when I was thinking about the World Championships this year, so like in the high jump and the long jump, sorry, or the throws, you only get 3 jumps or 3 throws, and that's all you get in qualification. Whereas high jump in qualification, you get 3 attempts at every height. So it's just like a normal competition, which is quite nice. I think in that point I was like, oh, maybe we are a little bit lucky in that sense. Um, but yeah, I think the hardest thing about high jump, like mentally, is the fact that you know what the bar is at. Like okay, the bar's at 197, and that can kind of like get into your head a bit, especially if you haven't jumped it before, or it's like a height which you like tend to struggle at. Like you know what the bar is, whereas in other events you just try and run as fast as you can, and then you cross the line, then you know what the time is. It's not like you have to run this specific time, otherwise you don't get to finish. So yeah, I think the hardest part of high jump is that it's like the psychological battle you have with yourself, like, okay, I have to jump this height, and yeah, you almost give it too much respect sometimes.
Mhm.
You think, oh, this bar's really high. Actually, when I was a kid, when I jumped 194 for the first time at World Juniors, it was in America, it was in Oregon, and when I went to look at the scoreboard, it was in feet and inches, so I had absolutely no idea what the height was. I then cleared it, and then I was like, oh my god, I jumped 194, which was like a huge PB. And um, yeah, I think at the time I was like, oh, this is amazing. And looking back, I'm like, it's because I had like no limit. Like, I just had to jump the bar in front of me. So yeah, I think sometimes we can get in our heads a bit.
In fitness terms, so there's another Nike trainer who's currently trying to hit a 150 kilo deadlift, and she knows she can do it. She's not done it before, but she's
Yeah.
telling me that every time she steps up to the bar, because she knows it's 150,
Mm,
it's almost like she's convinced herself she can't do it before she's even lifted it. But all her
yeah.
training suggests that actually she has the strength to do that. It's so interesting, that psychological side of it.
Really, yeah, it is.
Didn't you study psychology?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so like thinking back at the gym as well, so I've had that in like cleans and squats and stuff. So in cleans, I had like a really big block around 70 a couple of years ago. Um, so, and I was like definitely strong enough. I was going like 65, 67.5, like super easily. And then as soon as I got to 70, it was like, I can't do this. So the day I actually ended up cleaning 70, I was like, pretend it's 65. I was like,
Mm.
okay, cool. And then did it so easily. And I was like, oh my God, this is literally all in my head. And I think that was like such like an unlocking point for me, where I was like, wow, like the psychology of sport is huge. When I studied psychology, I tried not to do anything sport related because I was like, oh, I just want to do like the other points parts of psychology because I don't want to like just be thinking about sport all day every day. But now I look back, I'm like, oh, I really kind of wish I did more of the sports modules because it could really help me now. But yeah, it is super interesting how much is physical and how much is mental in sport.
I mean, how do you reset after you miss an attempt, or say it's your final attempt at a height? How do you reset before going up for that third jump?
Um, it kind of changes, to be honest, like every competition. I think I can't just have like one routine way to do it because yeah, just depending how I'm feeling on the day. But one thing I like to do on the third attempt is like, okay, pretend like not pretend like it is my last one, but I'm like, okay, if this is my last jump, I just want to make it the best one. And sometimes those attempts are the best because it's like you've only got one more shot, so you might as well just make it the best. Whereas sometimes I'm like, I've got to clear this bar, like I've got to clear this bar to make the next bar, and just putting pressure on myself, and then I miss it. So I think I know the right way to do it, but sometimes the environment and the pressure it can get to you.
Do you have any specific routines or rituals or anything before you compete?
Um, Not specific ones, but I think when I am competing, I do visualize quite a lot before I jump the bar. So we get a minute from when they like say our name to when we have to jump. So, and we have a little clock as well that we can see that's next to the bar. So you've got a minute to just kind of like mentally prepare, mentally rehearse, and then jump the bar. So yeah, I do tend to like visualize myself clearing the bar, and then going to jump it. So pretty much do that like every jump.
I mean, you've broken history or made history multiple times from being, was it 19 at your first Olympics?
Yeah.
And which was the first British woman in a final for 24 years, wasn't it? I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy. And then recently breaking that 2 meter record. So the
Hmm.
only British woman to have ever jumped 2 meters. What did breaking that 2 meter barrier feel like?
It was really surreal. Like I said, like the night before, I slept so badly, and I remember on the day being like, I can't remember what time the competition was. Maybe it was like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or something. But the whole day, I wasn't thinking about the competition. All I was thinking of is I just need to get some sleep. So I was trying to nap all day. I think I ended up having so much caffeine, like coffee, matcha, energy gels. I was like sleeping in the warm area. I was just so tired. I actually ended up getting a really bad flu the next day, so I think I was ill when I jumped it. Um, but yeah, so when I jumped 2 meters, honestly, there's been so many times from like today's going to be the day I'm going to jump 2 meters, and on that day, there was absolutely no way I thought that was going to be the day, and it was. And yeah, I cleared it first attempt, and I I was just in absolute shock and disbelief. And then I started crying, and I was like looking around, and I was like, I don't know if I'm in a dream or not. Like, it was such a weird state to be in because I was so overtired and like on this big stage, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. And even the next day I woke up and I was like, was that a dream? Was that real? It was, yeah, it was a really strange feeling, and it did take a few weeks to actually like sink in.
Mm.
It probably wasn't until like after the season that it really, yeah, started to sink in that I'd achieved like such a lifelong goal. So yeah, it was amazing, and I'm also glad it was like 2 meters dead. It wasn't 201, it wasn't 199, like it was 2 meters. So yeah, it was a really good achievement.
Do you feel like there are any lessons that you almost had to unlearn to allow yourself to get to that next stage?
Yeah, and I think interestingly, like I say, like it happened out of nowhere, and I attempted 2 meters, I think maybe once this season already, and I attempted it like a few times in my career, and it always been like this is 2 meters now, like it's, and I'd, yeah, almost like one of the trainers with the lift, it's like once you know what it is, and it's such a big goal and it's a round number, and yeah, you almost put that extra pressure on yourself. Whereas this jumping the 2 meters, I wasn't really like in my head at all. I was just like, right, I'm tired. I just need to like jump each bar. Um, and yeah, I almost, in a weird way, unlearn accidentally. It's just you just focus on the bar and don't think of the actual height. And I think that's also why I was in shock, because I didn't really realize it was 2 meters. Sometimes I've been on the bar and I'm on the mark, and I'd be like, right, it's 2 meters. I'm going to jump this, and then I'm going to make history, and I'm going to be the first British woman to do. And I'd almost like had this narrative and this story and all this pressure on myself before I'd even achieved
Mm.
it. So yeah, unlearning that was accidental, but like a really good accident.
Talk to us about Tokyo. So you did qualify for the Olympic final, but then you had to
Mm.
withdraw because of injury. How did you process that?
That was, I would still say that's probably the hardest point in my career, because yeah, I mean, making an Olympic final was like really big. I did it in 2016, but yeah, I was 19. I wasn't really expected to, and yeah, it was just such a big achievement. Whereas in 2021, I definitely had the expectation to make that final and the pressure around that, and I jumped the season's best of 195 to make the final. So it was like a really good moment. Um, and yeah, in the competition, I was like, oh, my foot's really hurting. Like my big toe was really, really hurting. And I remember after competition calling my parents, and they were like, "Oh, well done." And I was like, "I think I've broken my foot." It was like, and they were like, "Oh, I'll be fine, just ice." And everyone was like, "Oh, I'll be fine, I'll be fine." And as the days went on, like towards the final, I literally just couldn't put any pressure on my foot, and ended up having a stress fracture. Um, and yeah, it was just so difficult because I think even at the time people were just like, "Oh, I just think you can just go out there and jump and maybe just clear a bar." And I was like, "I don't think you understand. Like, I can't walk, I
Yeah.
can't jog. I'm not going to make the opening height as much as I want to go out there and compete." I think the opening bar was maybe 189 or something like that, and I was like, I physically can't. I can't do it. And I think that was a really hard moment as well. It was like, well, you can do it. You can just put like take loads of painkillers and have an injection and just like numb the pain. Um, and I think having people tell me you can probably go out there and perform, but I like knew that I couldn't perform. Well, I wouldn't be able to clear the opening bar, let alone do what I wanted to do, which was come away with a medal. So yeah, that was a really hard decision to have to make to pull out of that final, and yeah, it definitely did impact me for the rest of the rest of the year. I didn't compete obviously again after that summer. I was just rehabbing, and yeah, it was a hard decision, especially after having like after COVID and the Olympics already being delayed a year and being in the best shape of my life. And then that was my first injury, like my first proper injury, and I was like, and it happened at the Olympics, which was yeah, really tough.
I mean, these things do happen for a reason, but it's really difficult to accept that when it's on, it's your lifelong goal. Were there moments during that time where you questioned whether you would get back to the level that you are at now?
Yeah, I think I just remember the time being like, it just felt really unfair. I think that was the biggest thing. It was like, why? Like, why now? Why has this happened? And yeah, um, I think, yeah, because we'd waited like 5 years for that Olympics, I was like, oh, now I've got to wait another 3 years until Paris. And yeah, I think I did really struggle with the why it happened. And yeah, the motivation after that to like carry on was quite strong. But yeah, sometimes you do just have to go through those things, and you might never really understand the reason for it, but also you can't go back in time, so you can't just like live your life being like, why did this happen to me? Um, Nothing's gonna change, so you've just gotta yeah, do your best going forward.
Yeah. I mean, what's something that you wish more people understood about the experience of coming back from an injury or a setback?
I think I think coming back from an injury or setback is quite lonely. I think when you're competing every day and you're training and you're just like with your training partners and with your competitors and stuff, that's fun and that's what you do it for. You do it for like the thrill of the competition, and when that's taken away from you, it is quite like an isolating place to be. And sometimes I think like yeah, even like coaches probably struggle with having an injured athlete as well because they don't like their main area of expertise is not rehabbing your athlete, it's pushing them to be the best version of themselves like on on track. So yeah, it can just be like quite an isolating place to be, and it's probably one thing that people overlook. It's like those days where you've just got to go in and rehab like are boring. They're
Yeah.
boring, and it's yeah, it's not what you do your job for basically.
I mean, despite everything, you were most recently voted as team captain, right, for a Team GB
Yeah.
at the World Athletics. So you clearly are incredibly inspirational to all of your Team GB teammates. What does that responsibility mean to you as a young woman in sport being voted as captain?
Yeah, it was such a nice moment. It was yeah 10 years on from my first World Championships, so to be selected as captain was amazing for these championships. And it was one of those moments where I was like, wow, I've been through a lot. I have a lot of experience, and I feel like I had a lot of things to give. And yeah, it was probably the first point where I was like, oh, I'm not one of the youngest in the team anymore. I am actually like one of the seniors and a very seasoned championship performer. And yeah, I've gone through the highs and the lows in this sport, and I feel like I had a lot of things to give. And I think for me, like going into those championships as team captain, like we had to do a captain speech, and I think a lot of it was just about like being true to yourself. And I did a speech about like home advantage, even though we're not at home, and it was like just being like familiar with your surroundings, and you're on a track at the World Championships, but the track is just the same track you're on each day. Each day you train on, you compete on. It's nothing different. It's the same track, it's the same competitors, like nothing's actually different. And yeah, giving that speech almost to remind myself a little bit as well, to yeah, just enjoy it, and it's nothing different to what you do every day anyway.
I love that concept of home advantage, even though you're not at home. I mean, it's your arena, you know, you're in it every single time you compete. We are going to do a quick fire
Fun.
on some of your teammates. So, which athlete makes you laugh the most on the circuit?
I would definitely say Dina Asher Smith.
She's a vibe, actually. I met her out in Cayman, but I also,
Oh, of course, yeah.
she was brilliant. She was on a panel and she was hilarious. She was so good.
That's oh yeah, I heard her speech was amazing.
So good. Who is one athlete you'd love to swap training sessions with for a day?
Oh God, that is actually really hard because I'm like, I'm just saying, oh, I'd love to do an 800 session, but I could not imagine doing Keely and Georgia and Gemma's training, like, because they run so fast. Like when I was a heptathlete, those are not the 800 sessions I was doing. But I would probably swap with KJT, with Kat, because yeah, it'd be fun to do some hep training again.
Love that. Who brings the best pre-competition vibes?
Ooh, um, I'd probably say Toby Harry's. Yeah, he's got like some really good vibes. He's very big on social, and yeah, it kind of brings the fun to the camp and to the training sessions.
You need someone like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which athlete's mindset do you admire the most?
I would definitely say Keely. Yeah, her like transition from junior to senior was so seamless, and she is such a competitor. And yeah, I would definitely say Keely.
Who's the biggest student of the sport?
Ooh, that's a hard one actually. Um,
You can say yourself.
I wouldn't say myself. Um, he's actually not on the team anymore, but I would say Richard Kilty.
Love it.
He retired this year, so I think it's fine.
Who's one athlete you think deserves way more recognition than they're currently getting?
I actually think that's such a hard one. Now I'm like thinking who's even on the team. Um, Up until this year, I would probably say Amy Hunt, but now she's definitely getting the recognition. I think she had such a good season, maybe like behind the scenes a bit, and then yeah, now then just came out and got a silver medal. So
Her reaction when she got that silver was also amazing. Just the emotion
yeah, it
was
was.
amazing. Who's got the funniest warm-up ritual?
I haven't really seen anyone's warm up rituals to be honest. I think that's the thing about being like an individual sport. You are just like all you're yeah, just in your zone. You don't actually see what happens. I do always find it crazy how much the endurance athletes run. I'm like, you're running so much, and then you're going to go out and compete. Like they'll run first thing in the morning and just do miles, and then come back and then just race in the evening. So yeah, not a specific person, but as a whole, the endurance runners are crazy.
Yeah, they are crazy, and I love that about them. Who's got the calmest presence to compete against or alongside?
In our team, or
This can be globally.
okay, um, I would say Nicola Ollie Sluggers. She's like, yeah, the Australian high jumper, world champion. She is super calm and relaxed in competition. And yeah, I think just kind of calms all the other athletes as well.
Which athlete would absolutely dominate another sport, and what would that sport be? Or event? It can still be in athletics.
Okay, I can't use a heptathlete because they get to do
Oh,
all the different events as well. I would probably say, so I actually think Jasmine Sawyers would be an amazing pole vaulter.
oh,
Because she was like super gymnastic, fast and strong. So yeah, I think Jazz would be a great pole vaulter.
who's the teammate or competitor that always pushes you to be better?
I would say uh, probably Eleanor Patterson. She's another Australian high jumper. But yeah, we've been competing against each other since we were like doing World Youths, World Juniors, that kind of age group. We didn't actually compete against each other at the time, but I think as we've like grown, we've become like really good friends as well, on and off the track. So yeah, I think just her and like actually all the other high jumpers, we all push each other and try and make each other better. So yeah, I mean, it's a nice event group to be in because all the girls are actually like friendly and good friends. So yeah, it's a good atmosphere to be in.
Having accomplished your 10-year-old's dream of jumping the
Mhm.
2 meters, what's your next big dream that you're brave enough to say out loud?
Yeah, it was obviously like such a big achievement, and to do it, I'm like, wow, that's so, like I'm just so happy I've done it. Like it's something I've always dreamt and said I wanted to do. So to actually achieve it was amazing. And now I feel like the goal, I mean, the ultimate goal for any athlete is an Olympic medal. So that is always and will be my goal. Obviously, love to get some other major championship medals and medal on the way. But yeah, an Olympic medal is my ultimate goal.
When you eventually do step away from the sport, what's a legacy you hope you've left behind?
I think the legacy I want to leave behind is just someone who like just was always pursuing their goals and just didn't give up until she got them. Um, I think yeah, maybe a lot of people could have said I could have jumped 2 meters 10 years ago. Um, but yeah, I have had ups and downs, but I've always been sure that I was going to achieve it. So yeah, almost just having that like fearless pursuit of your goals, and yeah, just that determination and just never giving up.
I love the word fearless there. I think that says a lot.
Thanks.
If you had one piece of advice for your younger self, what would it be?
I think it would be like just trust yourself. I think I questioned myself so much throughout the years, if I was good enough or I was doing the right things. But yeah, just trust yourself and it will all work out.
You have been brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been so good
Thank
talking
you so
to
much,
you.
Tess.